Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at a really unusual stack of sources.
Yeah, it's a genuinely unique collection of material we've got today.
It really is. So we're setting out to explore the actual mechanical process of completely rewiring your identity, and by extension, your reality. And to do that, we are bridging abstract metaphysical philosophy with a hyper-detailed real-world operating system.
Right, so to set the context for you, we're looking at three distinct but interlocking frameworks here.
Mm,
First, we have the modern philosophy of creator Dan Koe, specifically his blueprint on total identity transformation.
okay.
Second, we're diving into esoteric philosophy. Russian esoteric philosophy, actually,
Yeah.
from Vadim Zeland's book, Reality Transurfing.
Which is fascinating on its own.
Oh, absolutely. But the anchor for all of this, the third piece, is something incredibly rare. It's a private, living master operating system from a real person.
Yeah, in the sources, he refers to himself as Greg 3.1.
Exactly. And he has essentially merged these two very divergent philosophies to build a highly lucrative local media empire.
Right, and we are going to trace that entire journey. We'll go from the spiritual engine of reality creation all the way down to the exact 5.55 a.m. daily routine this guy uses to pull it off.
It gets incredibly tactical.
It does. But let's start with the psychology of change. Specifically, Dan Koe's premise on why change usually fails. We aren't talking about something basic like, abandoning a New Year's resolution to go to the gym.
Right.
Let's look at chronic serial entrepreneur burnout. Someone who builds a business to the brink of success, panics, sabotages it, and then starts over.
Yeah, a vicious cycle.
Koe argues that most people in that situation try to change their actions, which he calls a second-order change, rather than fundamentally changing who they are, which would be a first-order change.
And that distinction is just critical. Think about a CEO running a $100 million company or a successful bodybuilder. They don't have to grind to execute their daily habits or make difficult decisions.
Right, they don't have to hype themselves up to go to the gym.
Exactly. To them, those actions are entirely natural. They would actually have to force themselves to be lazy, and they would hate the friction of it because of who they have fundamentally become. Their identity dictates their baseline behavior.
But getting to that baseline is the hard part.
Oh, absolutely.
Koe points out that all behavior is goal-oriented, or to use the clinical term from the source, teleological.
Teleological, right.
Like, we take a step forward because we want to reach a location. We scratch a nose to relieve an itch. But he notes that the trap is often our goals are completely unconscious and self-sabotaging.
Yes, the teleological aspect is where most people get completely stuck without realizing it. You might tell yourself that your goal is to launch a new product, but you keep endlessly tweaking the website.
Delaying the launch.
Right, delaying it forever.
Yeah.
And you label yourself a perfectionist, or you say you lack discipline. But if we look at it through the lens of teleology, your unconscious goal might actually be to protect yourself from the market's judgment.
Wow, so as long as the product isn't launched,
You can't be criticized.
that makes so much sense.
Or, you might stay in a dead-end corporate job while constantly complaining that you want to quit, because your true unconscious goal is simply safety and avoiding the appearance of failure.
So if my unconscious goal is safety, my brain is actually functioning perfectly by keeping me stuck.
Precisely. It is succeeding at the secret goal.
Huh.
Your behavior is perfectly aligned with a disadvantageous identity. Real change requires breaking that lens of perception.
Which brings us to the concept of cybernetics. The word literally translates from Greek as the art of steering.
Yes.
And the source brings in Naval Ravikant's definition of intelligence here, which frames this beautifully. He defines intelligence as simply the ability to get what you want out of life.
I love that definition.
It's great. High intelligence is the ability to iterate, persist, and correct course. It is like a ship blown off its path in a storm that constantly adjusts its rudder to reach the destination, or a thermostat.
The thermostat analogy is perfect.
Right. Sensing a drop in the room's temperature and automatically kicking on the heat. It is an intelligent system continuously taking in feedback and adjusting.
And to steer that ship out of its unconscious autopilot, Koe introduces a specific protocol: the vision and anti-vision.
Okay, let's break that down.
You cannot just float and hope to arrive somewhere better. You need a brutal, uncompromising anti-vision. This is a crystal clear picture of the life you absolutely refuse to live.
It is essentially weaponizing your own fear, right?
It is. You have to ask yourself, Where do I wake up on an average Tuesday if absolutely nothing changes in the next 5 years?
That's a heavy question.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
What specific opportunities have permanently closed? Who in my life finally gave up on me? You construct that stark reality to create massive internal dissonance and drive.
But that negative energy is chaotic.
Exactly. You can't just run away from something. It has to be paired with a minimum viable vision, not some perfect, meticulously detailed 10-year plan that paralyzes you.
Because those rarely work out anyway.
Right. Just a clear lens to steer toward right now. You compress that anti-vision into what you refuse to let your life become, and your vision into what you're actively building toward today.
Okay, so that covers the psychological framing, but this raises a major question for me.
That's it.
If identity is just a matter of psychology and steering, why does reality seem to actively fight us when we try to change?
Oh, man.
We've all had those days where you decide you are going to take control. You're running 5 minutes late to an important meeting and suddenly every single traffic light is red. You drop your keys in a puddle.
The classic downward spiral.
Right. And the guy walking in front of you on the sidewalk is moving at a glacial pace, unconsciously stepping in your way every time you try to pass. It feels entirely personal.
It really does. The classic Murphy's Law, or as the source calls it, Saud's Law. But Vadim Zeland's reality transurfing framework looks at that exact scenario and says, it is a mechanical reaction from reality, but it's not personal.
Okay.
This is where the material shifts from psychology to metaphysics.
Yeah, Zealand introduces this idea of the dual mirror of reality and the variance space. Can we break those down? Because imagining an infinite information structure containing all possible events, it sounds a bit like a sci-fi multiverse concept.
It is a profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Imagine the variance space as a cosmic catalog where every possible version of your life, past, present, and future already exists as data.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there. And Zealand contrasts two forces used to navigate this space: internal intention and outer intention. Internal intention is what we are all used to.
Right. Forcing things.
Exactly. It's forcing things. It's pushing your way through a crowded store to get the last item on the shelf. The material world relies heavily on this, but it requires immense physical energy, and it constantly meets resistance.
So what is outer intention? Because to be honest, it sounds like we might just be talking about the secret or wishing for things to happen, which I'm highly skeptical of.
It is entirely different from just wishing. Outer intention is about aligning your heart and your mind to simply select an outcome from that variance space without forcing the physical world to bend immediately.
So how does that feel in practice?
Zealand compares it to lucid dreaming while you are awake. When you realize you are in a dream, you don't fight the dream characters. You consciously direct the narrative with your intent.
But back to my traffic light example. If I am trying to use outer intention to get to my meeting, why is the universe putting a slow pedestrian in my way?
Because of how your energy is interacting with the structure of reality. Zealand explains this through two vital concepts: pendulums and excess importance.
Pendulums and excess importance.
And honestly, this is one of the more esoteric parts of the text, but it is the linchpin of the whole philosophy. Pendulums are unseen energy informational entities. Think of them as thought structures that feed on polarized energy, conflict, and strong emotion.
So, like, a social media algorithm optimized for outrage would essentially be a digital pendulum.
That is a perfect modern analogy. It feeds on your angry engagement. When you are rushing to that meeting, furious about being late, and gripping the steering wheel so tightly your knuckles are white,
Yeah.
you are creating what Zealand calls excess importance. You have assigned so much desperation to the outcome that you create a massive energetic imbalance.
And so reality steps in to correct the balance.
Precisely. The universe naturally seeks equilibrium. If you are radiating extreme, desperate energy about needing a specific outcome, balancing forces step in to neutralize that excess potential.
How do they do that?
Almost always, that balancing force manifests as the exact opposite of what you want. The pedestrian stepping in your way isn't doing it maliciously. Their subconscious is literally being nudged by the pendulum to increase the conflict energy you are already radiating, thereby feeding the pendulum.
That is fascinating. So the tactical move for you, the listener, when you face an obstacle, is to drop importance.
You have to.
You have to cast aside the desperate hope, the anxiety, the burning desire, and leave only the calm, pure resolve to have. The source uses the analogy of walking to your mailbox.
Yes.
You don't hope the mail is there, you don't pray for the mail, you just casually intend to walk down the driveway and collect it.
Exactly. If you are anxious and your nerves are tense, reality will present you with clowns to wind you up even more. You have to loosen your grip. Zealand's ultimate rule is to give yourself permission to be yourself and allow others to be different. You drop the importance of the obstacle to absolute zero, and it instantly loses its power to extract your energy.
I want to pivot to how this actually looks in practice, because this is where the deep dive gets incredibly practical.
Let's do it.
Enter Greg 3.1 and his master document, the Director's Code. This isn't just a guy reading Dan Koe and Vadim Zealand and philosophizing. He has built a highly structured 3-layer framework to live these concepts while building a local media empire. He literally refers to himself as the director.
It is a brilliant operationalization of theory. The Director's Code has 3 layers. Layer 1 is the inner world. This is his foundation. He uses reality transurfing alongside Maxwell Maltz's Psycho-Cybernetics to maintain absolute inner stillness. This is where he sets his target slides and practices eliminating that excess potential we just talked about.
Let's define target slides for the listener, because that's a specific transurfing term.
Sure. A target slide is a vivid, static, internal image of your goal already achieved. But crucially, you aren't visualizing the process of getting there. And you aren't looking at it like a movie on a screen.
You're not watching yourself do it.
Exactly. You visualize stepping inside the image, feeling the relief and normalcy of having already attained it. Greg uses these slides to program his cybernetic steering mechanism without triggering the anxious excess potential of wanting it too badly.
Got it. Now, layer 2 is the outer world. This is the tactical navigation. And this is where I have to stop you because I see a massive contradiction here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say.
The sources say that for his outer world, he utilizes incredibly sharp tools, specifically the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene and a personal behavior ops manual to project authority.
Right.
He employs what he calls the father frame in business negotiations. Putting Robert Greene's manual for Machiavellian control next to a spiritual concept of surrender sounds completely contradictory. It's oil and water.
And absolutely sounds like a contradiction on the surface.
Yeah.
How do you mix the spiritual detachment of transurfing with the manipulative, control-oriented tactics of the 48 Laws? But the resolution Greg built into his code is brilliant.
How does he reconcile it?
The director uses these tactical tools not out of desperation or a need to force reality, but purely as instruments of competence. They are weapons he carries. They are not who he is.
So he is separating his internal state from his external actions.
Exactly. Internally, he maintains that transurfing detachment. No excess importance, no gripping the result. Externally, he executes behavioral protocols with the absolute calm of someone who knows the mirror of reality will eventually reflect what he holds inside. You mentioned the father frame. In a boardroom negotiation, if a client threatens to walk away, Greg doesn't panic. The father frame dictates that he physically leans back, lowers his voice, and projects calm, unshakable direction.
He doesn't react to the pressure.
He absorbs it and gently redirects it, like a father dealing with a toddler's tantrum.
That perfectly aligns with the Stoic warrior gardener principle quoted in his text. It is easier to be a warrior who chooses peace than a pacifist forced to fight. The tools themselves, the negotiation tactics, the psychological leverage aren't the problem. Carrying them from a place of fear is the problem.
Yeah.
Greg 3.1 carries them from a place of wholeness. Finally, layer 3 is the story container. This is the narrative scaffolding. He uses the classic hero's journey and Dan Koe's identity models to structure his own transformation, which gives him a why for the friction he encounters.
And what is truly remarkable is how he enforces this complex identity biologically and psychologically every single day. This brings us to the actual mechanics of operating the machine.
Let's look at the daily routine. It starts with a physical anchor. Greg wears the director's totem, a gold chain around his neck. It isn't just jewelry. It acts as a physical signal to his subconscious. When that chain is on, it means he's taking on the burden of living a lucid life. Petty reactions, indulging in fear, and drifting on autopilot are simply not allowed. It is a tangible reminder of the identity he has chosen.
And that physical totem is paired with exact daily bookends designed to aggressively guard his mind and body. The day begins with the 5.55 reset.
Okay.
At 5:55 a.m., he goes outside immediately. He does not touch his phone. There's no checking email, no looking at the news, no mental to-do lists, just grounding.
Which, let's be honest, is incredibly hard to do. The pull to immediately inject the world's chaos into your brain the second you wake up is intense.
It is the ultimate test of first-order change. While outside, he takes 5 slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. This is a biological signal to his nervous system that he is choosing his day, not reacting to a threat.
Right.
He then lists 5 things he is grateful for, which actively keeps his mind out of scarcity mode and prevents the formation of excess importance.
And then he asks the anchor question, which is so practical. He asks, what's one thing I can do right now to create momentum that lasts throughout the day?
I love that question.
Whatever comes to mind first, he executes immediately, before anything else can derail him, and the day ends just as strictly with the 8:30 shutdown.
The shutdown is a hard digital sunset at 8:30 p.m. sharp. Screens off, notifications silent. But before he unplugs, he writes down 3 very specific things in a journal. One win from today, one thing that can wait, and one thing for tomorrow.
That clears the mental residue.
It offloads the cognitive burden of remembering tasks so that his sleep is protected and his unconscious mind isn't churning on anxiety all night.
You can see how this strict biological and psychological structure creates the true freedom needed to act with pure outer intention. He isn't waking up reacting to emails in a panic, he is meticulously setting the stage. Which leads us perfectly to Dan Koe's idea of turning your life into a video game.
Right, gamifying life.
Koe suggests organizing your life with a clear mission, boss fights, quests, and constraints, so that you have no choice but to become obsessed and find a flow state. Greg has taken this literal approach with his business, the Woodlands Loop.
The Woodlands Loop is the physical vehicle for his reality creation. It's an affluent local newsletter based in the Woodlands, Texas. But he isn't just spamming local event listings or scraping internet news. He curates highly specific, high-end content to gather an affluent audience.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. For example, the sources detail his almost obsessive research into finding the perfect cinnamon roll latte at a place called Third Gen Coffee, or identifying the absolute top fiduciary financial planners in the area. He serves as the trusted filter for the noise.
And the business model behind this is brilliant. It's not just selling $50 banner ads. He uses this curated audience to execute what he calls the landman model.
This is where it gets so smart.
He approaches franchise consultants nationwide. These are professionals who help wealthy individuals buy into franchises. He pitches them a partnership where he acts as the landman who drills the oil well. He charges a $15,000 retainer over 3 months to build them a massive, bespoke online community funnel.
Yeah.
Then, once the well is pumping out qualified leads from his affluent audience, he takes a 50-50 split of their commissions forever. And the sources note these commissions can be $20,000 to $40,000 a pop.
If we look at the mechanics of why this works, it perfectly marries the practical with the metaphysical. Practically, he is removing the friction and risk for the consultant. He does the heavy lifting of building the asset, so it's an easy yes for them.
Right.
Metaphysically, he is living the Transurfing principles. He doesn't beg for clients. He doesn't operate from desperation.
Because that would create a pendulum of neediness.
Exactly. Instead, he provides immense upfront value, which aligns with the Transurfing principle of world give. The idea that you must replace the intention to get with the intention to give.
Wow.
He acts as the architect of the ecosystem, assuming a posture of full stewardship. He isn't aggressively extracting wealth. He is stewarding an ecosystem of value and simply collecting the inevitable results with absolute certainty, which is that pure resolve to have.
It's incredible. He has literally built an economic machine where his inner spiritual posture dictates his outer financial reality. So taking all of this in, what does this actually mean for you listening right now? Transforming your life isn't about hyping yourself up for a few weeks of frantic new actions or downloading another productivity app.
No, it's much deeper than that.
It is about fundamentally shifting your identity, defining a clear anti-vision of what you refuse to become, and perhaps most importantly, dropping the desperate excess importance that causes reality to throw obstacles in your path.
And as you apply this, you must remember that the mirror of reality has a built-in delay. Just like a physical photograph developing in a darkroom, you have to hold the new image, your target slide, with calm composure until the physical world inevitably catches up to reflect it. You cannot change the reflection in a mirror by reaching out and forcing the glass. You can only change the image you are projecting by changing yourself.
Such a powerful reminder to stay the course when things look static. We want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today. Building on this entire stack of sources, take a hard look at your life right now. What is your primary pendulum? That annoying, persistent conflict, that frustrating person at work, or that stubborn financial obstacle that you are currently gripping by the throat and fighting against with all your daily energy? What would actually happen tomorrow if you simply dropped its importance to absolute zero, refused to feed it your precious emotional energy, and just let it swing right past you?
It is a question that just might rewrite your reality.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.